Like a fragile sparrow, the blue and white winged Newport fluttered frantically under the lashing of my twin Spandau, until... The Frenchman was a gallant opponent. He saluted me through the smoke that is his shroud. Script by Bob Kanigher, art by Joe Kubert. He was the enemy, blazing through the killer skies of 1918, the First World War, and this was his premiere appearance from the pages of Our Army at War 151, February 1965, when Rittmeister Hans von Hammer first flew his fearsome Fokker into the clouds and earned the names Human Killer Machine, Hammer of Hell, and Enemy Ace. As I watched the smoking trail of the enemy ships screaming towards the no-man's land of Cersei 1,000 meters below, like the bony finger of death scratching my 50th victory in the sky. Once the Frenchman allowed me to get into position above and beyond him, he was kaput, just as certainly as if he had put his neck under the executioner's axe, for I have been trained to kill. On my way back to my Jagstaffel, I already visualized the neat rows of trophies in my quarters. Your 50th victory, Rittmeister von Hammer. 1 cup for each downed enemy plane. You are the ace of aces. No other pilot of either side is even near your record. All Germany rejoices. Your pilots are waiting to celebrate your latest triumph. What uniform should I lay out for you, Rittmeister? Yes, I could even imagine my talkative orderly's befuddlement when... Look at him. Only a born killer could sleep as peacefully as a lion cub after the flaming combat he has just been through. Suddenly, waddling about 100 meters ahead of me like a clumsy duck in a yellow pond, was an old Fe-28 pusher-type plane. My 51st victory. I am in perfect position to attack, but too far away for effective firing. I will close the distance until he cannot escape. As the English observer caught sight of my all-red Fokker triplane hurtling at him, I laughed at his wild spraying. That observer is inexperienced. One could count off the meters between us, translate them into 300 English yards, and realise that he could not hit a target like me, moving at 100 kilometers per hour with that Lewis of his. Suddenly, a sledgehammer blow on my head came from one of the hundreds of wild bullets the Englishman's Lewis was blazing all over the sky. I'm hit! As a crimson film streaked across the sky, I dazedly thought, it has happened to me at last. The plane is on fire. Then my sticky palm told me I had been spared the worst fear of a pilot. It is only blood running over my goggles. Automatically I shoved the Fokker's stick blindly forward until the wild spraying has ceased. I have slipped out of his sights. The picture of the positions in the sky of the Fe-28 and my Fokker remained sharp in my mind, even though I was flying blind. So I pulled the stick back again as I tried to clear my goggles. I should be below him. Through my blood-smeared goggles, the yellow plane waddled above me. The Englishman does not see me. I am in his blind spot. I held my fire as my Fokker narrowed the gap between us, stalking the Englishman like a cat does a mouse, his paw extended but not striking yet, until I am sure. When I was so close to the Fe-28, I could practically count the stitches in its canvas body. I do not need tracers to guide me at this range. My twin Spandaus hurled bolts of blazing lightning at the unwary enemy plane until smoke suddenly gushed from him. He had his chance and missed me. As a fiery plume of smoke enveloped the Fe-28, I was close enough to see the dead pilot hunched in his cockpit. He is finished. Alone at his post in the doomed plane, the observer is still firing, blindly trying to find me through the smoke. He is a brave man. Even though the enemy plane fell into a spin, the observer still manned his Lewis, firing to the last from his plummeting coffin. The sky gives no one a second chance. Until now, the fury of combat held me like a curled spring. Now that the fight was over, whirling blackness from my wound overcame me, and I slumped against the stick. As my Fokker plunged earthwards after my 51st victory, my hand still clutched its stick. The triplane and I had been in so many desperate battles in the sky, that it seemed to know what was happening, as if it was screaming to awaken me from my death dive. End of Part 1. Part 2, Enemy Ace, continues on the next page following. Conclusion of the blazing battle diary of Enemy Ace. My Crimson Fokker and I had been welded together in the blazing fires of so many air battles that its motor echoed the beating of my own heart. I could not tell where the machine ended and the pilot began. How else can I explain a landing I cannot remember? I woke up in hospital. The bullet just grazed you, Rittmeister von Hammer. You will be out in a week. You are lucky. Lucky? No, I am stupid for forgetting that a stray bullet can kill too. I will not fly carelessly into a wildly firing Lewis gun again. Nevertheless, you did down the Englishman, Rittmeister. Added to the Frenchman, that brings your score to an all-time high, 51. That evening, when the nurses thought I was asleep. How peacefully he sleeps. He looks like an angel of death. In the arms of a beautiful nurse, I felt lonely. Amidst convalescing pilots, I felt lonely. When I received the gold and white enamelled cross of the Order pour le Mérite, I felt lonely. Even upon returning to the pilots of my own Jagdstaffel, I sensed it. I do not blame them for standing apart from me. Who can be friendly with a killing machine? When I could not stand the babbling of my orderly, or the silent awe of my pilots, I took a hunting rifle into the Black Forest. I wonder if he will appear again. The animal appeared as silently as a black shadow. So, you stand arrogantly in my sight, as if daring me to fire. But the Black Wolf knew I would lower my sight. If I killed you, I would lose my only friend. We hunted together in the Black Forest. I wonder if animals call you a killing machine too. He always left me without a sound at the edge of the forest. Now both of us return to the lonely business of killing. Always my Fokker triplane standing apart by itself in the Jagdstaffel field drew me like a crimson magnet. Full moon. I set the controls and spun the propeller myself, and as I stared at the flashing blade, I thought I heard the Fokker scream, "Full moon, bomber's moon, bomber's moon, hunter's moon, hunter's moon, killer's moon." Yes, as the Fokker leaped off the field and the propeller bit the darkness, I didn't need to be reminded. Killer's moon, killer's moon. At 10,000 feet over Douai, I spotted a long grey cigar shape gliding through the air. I dove towards its fat back sharply. One of our Zeppelins on its way to bomb Paris, a juicy target for Allied pilots. I hovered over the silvery whale-like back of the airship. The Zeppelin will conceal me from anyone climbing. As we crossed the Allied lines, exploding puffs flamed up through the darkness. Anti-aircraft fire. The fighters will be alerted. Not 10 minutes later, from my concealment above the Zeppelin, 3 Spads climbing in single file, like white fire horses answering an alarm. I knew the enemy pilots would attack one right after the other as they climbed past the Zeppelin, then loop over the great fat target and attack it a second time as they dove back toward it. As the first Spad finished its attack and climbed past the Zeppelin to get above it, I hammered a long burst at it with my twin Spandaus until a bright flame lit up the darkness. The second pilot would be warned by the explosion. Immediately I half rolled around the bulging side of the Zeppelin. While the second Spad looks from me above, I will attack the third Spad from below. Again my twin Spandaus hammered at its target as a blacksmith hammers at his forge, striking a shower of sparks in the darkness. The Frenchman has just learned the bitter truth. Single-seater airplanes can only fire in the direction they are flying. As I climbed the Fokker up past the Zeppelin, I knew where the last Spad would be, coming out of a stall, whipping down at a brutal speed. I must get in between him and the Zeppelin and halt his attack. My tracers crisscrossed with the enemy pilots, lighting up the darkness like a blazing spider's web. Suddenly the Frenchman's guns fell silent, while mine flamed on. His guns are jammed. He must break off the attack and roll out of the way. Instead, the enemy hurtled on like a falling star, until night exploded into white-hot noon, and the air around my tumbling Fokker became a furnace. He deliberately dove into the Zeppelin. As I finally righted my singed Fokker, I saluted the flaming debris of what had once been a mighty airship and its stinging gadfly. He was a first-class fighting man. He more than evened the score. He downed the Zepp I was guarding. Banking toward my Jagstaffel field again, I heard my crimson fokker scream through the night. Killer's moon, killer's moon. Yes, it's kill or be killed in these battle skies. Tomorrow is another day.